You know, those black churches go on for 4 hours. Their Sunday church.
Very charismatic.
4 hours of singing, and you know what? I don't ever want to go to a white church. I haven't really. Grew up Catholic, raised. I mean, wasn't raised Catholic, but I was sent to a Catholic school for 13 years. Right, 13 years. Okay, my family wasn't Catholic. They sent me there. No, they sent me there.
You can't do that.
What do you mean?
You have to be Catholic to go to Catholic school. My aunt and uncle got married Presbyterian and then wanted to send their kids to Catholic school, so they had to have their marriage re-blessed in the Catholic church to be able to send the kids to Catholic school. You can't just pick and choose.
It's crazy, right? Now listen, I could tell you some stories about my Catholic upbringing, but
this should be good.
This should be good. You see my attention deficit, right? We're like all over the place, but that's okay. That's okay. That's what happens when you don't prepare. So, I did go to church 13 years Catholic school, and that even includes my 9th grade. I started in kindergarten, and I went all the way to 9th grade to an all-girls Catholic school my parents sent me. Okay? I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be at the public school with my friends. So I did everything I could to get kicked out. I did everything I could to get kicked out. They finally kicked me out.
For what?
No, I'm sorry. They asked me to not come back for my 10th grade.
Because they're Catholic. They're very polite.
They asked me to not come back. And I was so happy. My mother was so pissed. So my mother used to pay...
Poor Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky. She used to pay them with a check in her name. Okay, my parents were divorced. My dad would give her the cash, and she would write the check and pay my tuition. Okay? When they asked me to leave, my mother said, I want my deposit for the next year back, obviously.
Yeah.
They sent it back to her in my father's name. The check was written out to my father. My mother was like, how the hell do they even know who he is? I have never written a check to them in my father's name, in my ex-husband's name. So she marched her ass right down there to talk to them. She said, how is this possible? Well, turns out the reason I wasn't asked back is because at the time, my father owned a lot of the pornography stores. Like, he was the first to open them in the city here. And they didn't like that. So they asked me not to come back because they didn't want a child of like a pornographer right in the school, because they're judgy, obviously, right? So my mother went nuts and lambasted them. She let them have it. But needless to say, that's how I ended up getting out of going to Catholic school.
Wow.
Which is very disappointing because I did my best to get kicked out on my own. Okay? I didn't need any help from my family, all right? I just wanted out. Just wanted to get the fuck out, okay? We're not going on the radio today, by the way, so we can swear. This is going straight to podcasts. Just so you know, you can let them rip. All right, well. So that's it. I got removed. And it was very upsetting, okay? I once started a fire in my science class. You know how you use those little beakers?
Yep.
Well, I don't know. I kind of purposely, made it so it made a little bit of a flame because I was infatuated with how those blankets that put out fires work. You pull it down, this big blanket comes out, and you drop it on top of a fire. I really wanted to see how that worked. And I did it, and the science teacher had to pull it out and put the fire out. And I got suspended, but they let me back. Needless to say, very upsetting that I didn't get removed from Catholic school on my own. But I do have many other stories. But I was not raised Catholic. I think my parents sent me to Catholic school when I was much younger because they were just really shitty parents, and I think they hoped the nuns would do a better job. So I think they thought by kicking in that little extra money to send me there, that it would be like a little bit of extra discipline because they sucked at it.
So what was discipline like? Were they dressed as nuns?
Yes.
I had nuns, but they dressed like normal people.
Oh, no. These women wore habits and the whole thing. Especially more when... And it's so surprising because when I was in elementary school, now we're talking the early 70s when I was in Catholic school as a young child. It was all the 70s, you know? That was, you know, 1st through 8th, whatever. So I graduated from 8th grade in 76. I'll never forget because that was the bicentennial year for us, you know. So they dressed as nuns, and we had a couple teachers that were just teachers. They weren't nuns. But the rest were nuns. And some of them were so old, I swear to God, they'd fall asleep at that desk. They had some old-ass, decrepit nuns in there. They were like in their 80s. They shouldn't have been teaching. That's the start of where my education went all downhill. Because they didn't really want to take the time, because I was extremely dyslexic and I couldn't read or write. And, of course, I have ADD. So instead, they just labeled me stupid and lazy and just kind of pushed me through. So by the time I got to high school, I still couldn't even write. But it didn't matter, because I got kicked out of the good school and got to go to the public school near me where nobody could read and write. You know what I mean? Nobody could read or write, so I found my people. It was perfect. I got all the way through, graduated from high school, never did math. I can't even divide. Never learned how to divide. You know? So it worked out for me because I was stupid, so it was good. But any other, you know, not. Now Catholic schools, it's harder, right?
That's crazy. I can't believe they just pushed you right through.
Oh yeah, they didn't want to be bothered. They wanted the check. And you know the worst? I know I'm really going down on the Catholic schools here, but this was my experience. I went to an Irish Catholic school, and I was Italian. You know what that's like? That's bad.
No, I'm German.
I'm half German, half Italian. But the Irish Catholics, like, they're their own people. And everybody that I went to school with had 8 brothers or sisters. Like, the Irish didn't believe in birth control. Irish Catholics did not use birth control. Okay?
That's insane.
They all had 8 brothers and sisters. I was with the McDermotts, the Smiths, all the Irish. And then there was me, the one Italian in there, Zachary. And so I already had a strike against me. Father Feeney was not down with the Italians, okay? None of the So I already had it rough. And because we were Italian, and I really, they used to ask my dad for extra $100 a month to keep me there.
Oh my God.
They were like the mob. They shook my father down.
Right? So shady.
Shady.
Shame, Belle.
Shame. Here we go. There it is.
Shame.
So yeah. So that, that's what it was like, being the only Italian in an Irish Catholic school.
And then what did your kids go to? Public school?
Yeah, my kids went to public. I didn't raise my kids with any type of a religion. They did go to religion classes when they were young. I said, let me send them to religion class, because any other help. The Catholic guilt is always good for schooling. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how I think. They just guilt you and they scare you. Yeah. So I wanted to give them a little of that guilt and shame, and but it didn't last long, because then it got to the point where my ex-husband had to bring them on Sundays, and he just didn't want to be bothered. So that was it. That was the extent. I think they only had 1 month of what do you call that? Religious
studies or something.
Sunday
school.
Sunday, right, exactly. So they didn't get much of it.
You need a little bit more than 4 classes for that sink in.
Yeah, right. So, yes, they went to public school. I did not send them to Catholic school. I couldn't bring myself to it. Because I had such a bad experience. But my kids are dumb too. Let's be, let's just say, let's just call it how it is, okay?
Bad mom.
I am. And, my MB, here comes some MBBs, bad moms. Moms behaving badly. But, so my kids were so stupid. I used to feel terrible. And I thought, if I sent them to Catholic school, like, they are a little bit harder. and they would have never finished. There's not enough extra help in there for them either. At least when I sent them to public school, I know they could go to the classes with the other dumb kids, so it worked out.
Well, but, included.
Right. And they would feel, they would have, other kids like them, Like-minded. So they did not, but I'll tell you, my girlfriend went to Catholic school her whole life, and she really believes in the Catholic education. She's 100% behind that. So I had asked, we were at the dinner table one night, and my youngest says, Mom, what's a sin? My girlfriend was mortified. Okay? She was probably 12. And she didn't know what a sin was.
Oh my God, I thought you were going to say like 5.
No, my youngest one used to just like blurt out the most ridiculous questions at the dinner table too. So she was like, what's a sin? And Danielle was like, are you kidding? Like, they don't even know what a sin is. I'm like, no! They never had any religious studies. They don't know what any of that is. I'm like, how am I going to explain what's a sin? She doesn't even know who Jesus is.
Oh, no.
I can't explain that. That was the extent of it. They were baptized, though, because my mother-in-law is Catholic Italian. And so was my grandma, Catholic Italian. They were convinced that if my kids didn't get baptized and they were to die, they were going straight to hell. Like, a 7-month-old was going to go to hell, okay?
Same. My mother is the least religious person you will ever meet, and she lost it when my cousins were like 6 months old and hadn't been baptized. Something happens to them, they're going to wind up in purgatory. Like, you don't believe in any of this. Why are you freaking out? She's like, they have to be done. This is just awful. Like, you have never been to church. Why are you concerned?
Right. It's crazy, right? Like, doesn't that seem to be like the most ridiculous of all of the things they believe? Is that a little baby is going to go to hell?
Right?
Like, where did that even come from? Like, what in the Bible that?
I don't know, but I feel like murderers say sorry and they can get into heaven. So there's no reason a little baby is being stuck in purgatory or hell or wherever.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, like, I guess because a little baby really can't confess its sins, but then what sins are a little baby doing?
What sins does it have?
Yeah.
Too many poops?
I know, it's crazy. So that was one thing about the Catholic Church that always, like, really I never understood. But I have to tell you a story about what a little shit I was. I remember my dad had, do you remember those, like, the National Geographic? Well, you remember encyclopedias, obviously, right? That was right. Well, that was the only way we got any information when I was a kid. We had to use an encyclopedia. We didn't have anything to Google, okay? So we had to go to our encyclopedia, whenever we did our homework, and we had to look stuff up in there. My dad had sent those National Geographic, once a month we would get like a book on a different subject. And the book came about evolution. My National Geographic book about evolution.
Oh, boy.
And I remember opening it and flipping through the pages and seeing how we evolved from monkeys and apes over the, you know what I mean? Over the, and I'm going, this makes sense. Like, and I had been raised Catholic, so I was told that we came from a rib or something. And I always questioned that as a little girl.
Monkeys make way more sense.
I always questioned that. So I was always like in class going, this doesn't make sense. These people are crazy. I mean, a little girl, I had figured that out in my mind. Okay, this doesn't make sense. Like, how did we all come from Adam and Eve? Like, that doesn't make sense. No. So then the evolution book came, and it was like a bell went off. I'm like, this makes complete sense. Now I have a better understanding. Well, I walked into school with my book, and I brought it to my religion class.
Oh, Jesus.
And I whipped that book out, and I held it up, and I told that nun, you people are crazy. This is where we came from. I don't know what you're teaching, but none of that makes sense. Like, you need to see the truth. And I really felt like I was teaching that lady the truth.
How did she take it?
She was mad.
Oh, I bet.
They were so mad. She confiscated my book, and she called my mother, And she said that they didn't appreciate that they were buying me that, and that I was not learning the truth. And they were pretty much like,